Hi everyone, welcome to Educon Community Java interview series. This is the set 2 of 2 to 4 years of experience related questions. So let's start today's questions. So the first question is like, what is the covariant return type? So a covariant return type allows a method in a subclass to return a type that is a subclass of the return type in the parent class. So this basically facilitates the method overriding with a more specific return type and improving the readability. And also it reduces the need for the typecasting. So it basically allow a method in a subclass to return a type that is a subclass of the return type in the parent class, right? So it basically avoids unnecessary typecasting. We need not to do the typecasting externally, okay, and making the code more maintainable, more readable, and allowing a subclass to return a more precise type, and it enhanced the flexibility, and it also prevents the class cast exception at runtime by ensuring the type compatibility. Clear? So next is, what is the purpose of the transient keyword? So this transient keyword is specifically related to the serialization, okay. So when an object is written to a file, the transient keyword is basically used in Java serialization to indicate that a field should not be saved, right? So the JVM ignores the transient fields during the serialization and assigning them the default values instead. So when we will use the transient keyword, then the actual value will not be reflected, or the actual value need not to uh, give as a output, right? So a temporary default value will be provided there. So this is basically useful when dealing with a sensitive or temporary data. So mainly it will be used when suppose you will store something as a credentials like your passwords, your mail IDs, those are the credentials you have. Those are the secure things. So always we need not to convert uh, these values or the actual values in the output, right? So JVM will ignore those transient field during the serialization. So when you will suppose make some JSON files and you will fetch the data from there, right? So there the serialization deserializations parts are there, right? So from that JSON values that will be reflected when you will call the API, right? So you will get the result there. So when you will put the variable with the transient keyword, okay, so then JVM will ignore those fields and they will provide some default value, not the actual value. That's the funda of the transient keyword. Next is sleep and wait methods difference. So sleep belongs to the thread class, but wait belongs to the object class. Next, sleep doesn't release the lock and wait releases the lock. Sleep is basically a static method, wait is non-static method. Sleep, like in exception handling, no interrupted exception thrown, but wait throws interrupted exceptions if interrupted. And usage, so sleep is basically used to pause a thread for a specific duration, but a wait used to make a thread wait until notified. So when we will use the sleep method, we also need to provide some time, like for how much time the thread will be paused. So that's why it will be paused for a specific time. But in the wait, we need not to mention the timings. And when we use sleep, when we will provide the time, usually those are in the milliseconds. Okay, so both methods have overlaid versions for dealing wait or sleep duration with milliseconds and nanoseconds. Okay, so next is string versus string buffer. So as you know, String is immutable in nature and string buffer is mutable in nature. Performance. So string is inefficient for frequent modifications and string buffer is more efficient for modifications as it is mutable. String is not thread safe. String buffer is thread safe. Usage used when strings are constant and string buffer is used when frequent modifications are needed. So when in your project you know that this string is my final, we need not to change anything. Suppose for any OTT platform, your ID or suppose your Aadhaar card or your voter card, those things when will be used in your projects. So your Aadhaar card or PAN card number, those things will not be changed, right? So for those constant type of things, you can store them in the string type. But when it's necessary to change the strings, like someone's earlier name was consist of first name and last name, and then he introduced his middle name as well. So then you need to add the middle name in between your first name and the last name, right? So in these cases, you need to use the string buffer, right? So suppose when one user will need to update his mail IDs or something like that, or phone number like that, then you need to use the string buffer when there will be some thread safety as well. Next, the difference between string buffer and string builder. So in Java, you know that string is immutable, but that string buffer and string builder both are mutable. But the main difference between the string buffer and string builder is like string buffer is thread safe, but string builder is not thread safe. So as string buffer is thread safe, so this is synchronized, but string builder is not synchronized. And also as string buffer is thread safe, synchronized, so that's why it's slower, but string builder is faster. And in multi-threaded environments, string buffer will be used, right? But string builder is mainly used in the single threaded environments. So you need to carefully decide in your projects, like when you will use the string, when you will use the string buffer, when you will use the string builder. So again, I am comparing these three things. So whenever in your project the immutability characteristics is more necessary, then you need to use the string. When some mutability concept will be required, then you need to use or you need to decide between the string buffer and string builder. And after all, between these string buffer and string builder, you also need to consider that your project environment is multi-threaded environment or single-threaded environment, or need to require some thread safety or not. So when it's require multi-threaded environment and thread safety concepts and synchronizations part, then you need to consider the string buffer. And when you need not to think about the thread safety and the synchronization, and along with that the environment is also single threaded, then you can easily use the string builder. Okay, so next is, should string buffer or string builder be preferred for frequent modifications? So if frequent modifications to a string are needed, string buffer or string builder should be used instead of string, as string is immutable. So if the what I have told earlier, so in that way, if the application requires the thread safety, then string buffer is the better choice. And if performance is your priority and multi-threading is also not required, then string builder is preferred due to its faster execution. Next, why is string buffer called mutable? So string buffer allows the modifications of string content without creating new objects, unlike string. So this makes it mutable and enabling the efficient string manipulations such as appending, inserting, and deleting the characteristics. So suppose here I have given you the one example like string buffer example, and it is the main method. So our string buffer is b equals to new string buffer. So then this string buffer SB, we are appending first of all educon, then we are giving one space and then community, and after that we are printing that string buffer. So we will get this educon community. So at first SB will store the educon, then educon and space, then community will be appended. So continuously these modifications are happening, right? So that's why the string buffer is mutable. So how is a string created using a new different from a string literal? So when a string is created using a literal, it basically stored in the string pool in the stack memory. You know that, right? So there are two types of memory mainly, stack memory and the heap memory. So when the you will just create the uh, string literal, so basically it will stored in the string pool in the stack memory. But when string is created using a new keyword, then it is stored in the heap memory, even if an identical string already existed in the pool. So as you are creating with the new keyword, so another object formation will be happened. So another reference will be created, right? So again, if like even if there is the same thing, the objects, two different objects will be created. So like this string s1 equals to hello, so it basically will stored in the string pool of the stack memory. But when you are creating this string s2 equals to new string hello, so this will be stored in the heap memory. But you are seeing this hello and this hello are same, right? So there will be also another concept is like equals method and the double equals operator, right? So that equals method will check the main content of the string, like main content, like hello and hello. But that double equals will specifically check the reference, memory reference, right? So suppose this s1 and s2, if we will uh, check that s1 dot equals s2 in that way, so the you will get the true value, right? But when you will check in that way that s1, hmm, this is small s anyway. So when you will check this s1 equals to like this s1 double equals s2 in that way, so you will get the false. Why? As it will check the reference. This hello will be stored in the uh, string pool area in the stack memory, whereas this will be stored in the heap memory, right? Even if an identical string already exists in the pool. So that's the concept. Then what is an array in Java? So an array is a collection of elements of the same like homogeneous data type stored in the contiguous memory locations. So it provides the indexed access to elements and making the retrieval efficient. So arrays have a fixed size and cannot be resized after creation. So like int array, int this the symbol of array. Okay, this array equals to new int. Say 5 is the size of this array. So where are arrays stored in Java? So arrays are stored in the heap memory in Java. So you are creating it with the new keyword, right? So that will be stored in the heap memory only. So when an array is created using the new keyword, the JVM allocates memory dynamically in the heap memory. So the garbage collector manages the memory, reclaiming the unused space when objects are no longer referenced, right? So what are the types of array in Java? So mainly there are two types: single dimensional array, so which stores the elements in a single row. So int array numbers equals to new int 5, and multi-dimensional array stores the elements in multiple dimensions like a table. So 2D array. Okay. So like int This is the two-dimensional array matrix new int. The row and column sizes we have specified 3 and 3, right? So both types allow efficient storage and retrieval of elements. Okay, so so again we will discuss like what we have discussed here. So what is a covariant return type? So covariant return types basically allows a method in a subclass to return type that is a subclass of the return type of the parent class. Suppose you have returned something in the parent class, right? So the so the subclass which extending that parent class can return the subclass of that return type of the parent class, right? So in that way we need not to do the typecasting, and in this way the code will be more maintainable, more readable in that way. Okay, so that's the funda of covariant. Then the transient keyword basically related to the serialization. So whatever data or whatever objects we don't need to uh, uh, get as the original value or actual value, basically we will keep it with the transient keyword, and JVM basically ignores those transient fields during the serializations and assigning them some default values, right? What is the slave and wait method difference? Okay, so these are the difference. Then we have discussed about the string buffer and string builder. Then this what is the better choice, or when we will prefer string buffer, when we will prefer string builder in different scenarios we have discussed. Then why string buffer called the mutable with the example I have explained. Then the string literal creation and the string literal creation with the new keyword I have already discussed, like the stack memory concept, heap memory concept, what is the strict pull, those things, when we will use the equals method, when we will use the double equals operator, then those comparisons also I have discussed. Then I have talked about the arrays concept, so the types of arrays, where the arrays will be stored, like that. So those things we have covered. So stay tuned, do like, share, subscribe for more motivations, and again we will discuss more questions. Okay, and if you have any other questions, then you also can put down in the comment sections, we will discuss later. Thank you.